Emily locked the front door behind her, the familiar click echoing softly in the quiet suburban street. It was a typical Wednesday morning in Maplewood Heights, the kind of neighborhood where every lawn was meticulously trimmed and neighbors exchanged polite nods, but rarely more. She glanced at her phone one last time, double-checking her calendar, then slipped into her car, headed for the office. As she drove away, her mind buzzed with the usual workday worries, upcoming deadlines, client meetings, and the never-ending battle with the HOA over the community's latest improvements. Over the past few months, things had soured between Emily and the board. What started as small disagreements over garden rules and mailbox designs had escalated into passive-aggressive notices and fines. The HOA had become a shadowy force, quietly pushing boundaries, and Emily had grown wary. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, expecting a reminder or a work email, but her breath caught. An anonymous text message stared back at her. "They're coming today." Her fingers trembled as she stared at the screen. Who was this? A prank? A warning? Her heart thudded, a cold wave of unease washing over her. She reread the message. No name. No clue. Just 4 chilling words. Emily shook her head, trying to dismiss the creeping dread. "It's probably nothing," she muttered aloud, but the seed of suspicion had been planted. At work, she struggled to focus. Every notification made her jump. Every sound in her apartment that she heard on the phone's security app made her check the live feed, only to see the same empty rooms, the same locked front door. Yet, the message lingered in her mind. By mid-afternoon, a nagging voice inside her pushed her to check her remote security system's logs. She had installed it after a minor burglary scare last year, an investment to protect her sanctuary. The system was more than just cameras. It was a smart network she could control remotely. Door locks, alarms, motion sensors, even a silent lockdown feature she'd barely tested. As she scrolled through the logs, her stomach dropped. At 9:30 a.m. that morning, someone had attempted to access her front door twice. The entry was denied automatically, but the timestamps matched the window when she was just leaving for work. Her pulse quickened. Had the HOA sent workers early? Without telling her. She tried calling the HOA office. A cheerful receptionist answered, then abruptly transferred her to voicemail. No callback. Panic twisted inside her chest. She sent a message to the anonymous number asking who they were. No reply. The rest of the day crawled by in agonizing suspense. Every sound in the neighborhood felt like a signal. Every passing car, a potential threat. Finally, the workday ended. Emily raced home, dread gnawing at her. Pulling into her driveway, she immediately noticed something off. The familiar door looked different. Her heart sank as she pulled out her keys and tried the lock. It wouldn't turn. Not once. The lock was new. Her hands shook violently. She looked around. No workers, no trucks, just an eerie silence hanging over her home. Emily's mind spun. Had the HOA really gone behind her back, changed her locks, and locked her out? Her phone buzzed again, a notification from her security system. Someone was attempting to tamper with the door. And this time, she wasn't alone. Emily's fingers trembled as she jiggled the key one last time, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. The lock wouldn't budge. No matter how many times she twisted or pushed, the cold metal refused to give way. Her home, her sanctuary, had become a fortress that barred her entry. She stepped back, eyes darting down the quiet street. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the manicured lawns, but the neighborhood felt strangely different, almost eerie. No children playing outside, no neighbors chatting over fences, just the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. A chill ran down Emily's spine. She pulled out her phone, dialing the HOA's office number with shaky hands. The line rang once, twice, then a click. A recorded message greeted her, cold and impersonal. "The office is currently closed. Please leave a message." Frustration surged. She hung up and tried the main HOA email address, composing a terse message demanding an explanation. But minutes passed with no reply. It was as if the entire board had vanished. Desperation creeping in, Emily called her closest neighbor, Mrs. Garcia, hoping for some clarity. "Mrs. Garcia, it's Emily," she said breathlessly. "Do you know anything about the locks being changed?" A pause, then a hesitant sigh. "I have had some workers early this morning, but no one told me anything official. The HOA has been difficult lately." Emily's mind raced. Had the HOA deliberately locked her out without notice? For what reason? She thought back to the anonymous text. "They're coming today." Was it a warning or a threat? Her phone buzzed again, a notification from her home security app. Someone was trying to tamper with her front door. She swiped open the live feed, and her blood ran cold. Two men in unmarked uniforms crouched near the lock, fiddling with tools. One glanced nervously at the camera, then quickly looked away. Their faces were obscured by baseball caps, but their intent was clear. Emily pressed the lockdown button on her app, a feature she'd installed after last year's break-in scare, but had never had cause to use until now. Immediately, the smart lock engaged fully, sealing the door shut and sending an alert to her phone. The men muttered curses, stepping back from the door in frustration. Emily's pulse raced. She watched as one of them pulled out a device, something that looked like an electronic lockpick, preparing to bypass the system. Fear and adrenaline surged through her veins. The battle for her home had begun, and she was stuck on the outside, powerless to stop it directly. She called the local police non-emergency line, explaining the situation, but the dispatcher sounded skeptical. "Miss, if it's the HOA changing your locks, that's usually a civil matter. We can't intervene unless there's clear evidence of a crime." Emily felt a cold wave of helplessness crash over her. The system was protecting her physical door, but the law offered little protection against the HOA's heavy hand. Determined not to be a victim, Emily dialed her lawyer's number. The call went straight to voicemail. Minutes stretched like hours as she stood on the porch, eyes glued to her phone, monitoring every move of the intruders through her security cameras. Suddenly, the scene shifted. One of the men suddenly froze, reaching toward his earbud. He whispered hurriedly into a device she couldn't hear. Emily's gut twisted. They knew they were being watched. Then, a knock. Soft, but deliberate. Her heart leaped. "Who's there?" she called, voice steady despite the tremor inside. No answer. More knocks, urgent, insistent. Emily considered ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of her. She leaned close to the door, whispering, "Please state your name." A muffled voice replied, "Board representative, we need to talk." Emily's mind spun. A representative, yet no official notice had come. Was this a bluff, a warning, or something worse? Her phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. "You're not safe. They have a plan beyond the locks." The sunset painted the sky in fiery reds and oranges, but for Emily, darkness had already fallen, both outside her door and deep within the tangled web of secrets her HOA was weaving. Emily's breath hitched as the doorbell echoed faintly through the quiet street. She stayed behind the glass panel of the porch light, phone pressed against her ear, watching the live security feed on her screen. The figure standing just out of clear view shifted, waiting. Her mind raced back to why she had installed the security system in the first place. After last year's break-in attempt, a frightening breach that left her shaken, Emily had invested in a cutting-edge smart security system, one she'd customized in secret. It wasn't just a few cameras and alarms. It was a fortress controlled remotely by her smartphone, capable of locking doors, activating motion sensors, turning on floodlights, and even triggering an automatic lockdown. She flicked her thumb across her phone's screen, bringing up the control dashboard. The system's AI was already scanning for unusual behavior. The locks were engaged, motion detectors primed, and cameras streaming high-definition video. Suddenly, her phone vibrated sharply. An alert flashed. Unauthorized access attempt detected. Security lockdown activated. A small smile tugged at Emily's lips. Despite the rising threat, her secret weapon had already thwarted 2 attempts to breach her home. The lock change. Foiled. The silent break-in. Halted. The neighborhood might not know, but Emily was not defenseless. She tapped the screen to activate the floodlights around her porch and side windows. A bright, unforgiving light flooded the front yard, spotlighting the shadowy figures lurking nearby. She saw the two men she'd caught earlier, now hesitating in the glare. Her phone buzzed again, this time with an incoming video call. The number was blocked. With a steadying breath, Emily answered. The screen flickered, revealing a masked face, partially obscured in the dim light. Emily, a low voice whispered, the HOA won't stop with your locks. They're planning something bigger. You need to prepare. Emily's fingers tightened around the phone. Who is this? How do you know? The figure shifted. I'm someone who knows what's really going on behind the board's facade. They're using the HOA as a cover to gain control over homeowners, using tactics that go far beyond property rules. The call abruptly ended. Emily sat back, heart pounding. Was this a threat, a warning, or a desperate plea for help? Her security system beeped again. A new alert flashed across the screen. Motion detected near rear entrance. She switched the camera views. In the shadow of the backyard, a figure moved cautiously, creeping closer to her side door. Emily's mind raced. Could she remotely lock that door too? Yes. She tapped the lock icon, watching as a green checkmark confirmed the command. The figure paused, then retreated into the darkness. The sophistication of her system was her lifeline now, but Emily knew it was more than technology keeping her safe. It was knowledge. Knowledge of the HOA's moves, the strange anonymous texts, and this new threat lurking in her neighborhood. She remembered the last conversation she'd had with her neighbor, Mrs. Garcia, who'd hinted at strange things happening in the community. Unauthorized entries, notices disappearing from mailboxes, and a sudden spike in maintenance visits timed suspiciously. Emily's phone buzzed again. A text from the anonymous number, "Watch your back, they're watching you too." A cold sweat broke out across her forehead. The paranoia she tried to shake now had a solid foundation. But Emily was no longer just a victim. Armed with her hidden remote security system and a growing network of clues, she was ready to fight back. Her fingers hovered over the emergency alert button, just in case. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over Maplewood Heights, Emily realized this was no ordinary battle over property lines and community rules. This was a war for control, privacy, and trust. And she was standing right in the middle of it. The orange glow of sunset faded into a creeping twilight, casting long shadows across Emily's porch. Inside her apartment, she stared at her phone, fingers poised above the screen, ready to unleash the full power of her security system. Outside, the quiet neighborhood now buzzed with an unseen tension. Through the high-definition cameras, Emily watched two figures moving cautiously along the walkway, their faces partially obscured by the low light. Her heart thumped in her chest as she activated the lockdown protocol. Instantly, the smart locks clicked into place with a mechanical finality, sealing every entry point. Motion sensors flared to life, and floodlights blazed on, throwing harsh white light over the front yard and illuminating the shadowy figures. Emily's phone buzzed with a flood of alerts. Unauthorized access attempt detected. Lockdown engaged. Video feed active. She felt a surge of satisfaction as she realized her secret weapon was holding strong. But the men outside weren't ready to give up. One of them approached the front door cautiously, pulling out a small device, a sophisticated electronic lockpick designed to bypass traditional security. Emily's breath hitched. The device buzzed softly against the door, but the lockdown feature prevented it from overriding the smart lock. The man cursed under his breath, stepping back in frustration. Suddenly, a pre-recorded voice echoed from hidden speakers near the door. Warning. Unauthorized access detected. Leave the premises immediately. The intruders exchanged uneasy glances. Emily watched as the man crouched, attempting to disable the cameras. But the system had anticipated this. Multiple backup cameras positioned at different angles kept streaming live footage directly to her phone. Her fingers hovered over the button that would notify the police. She hesitated, knowing the law might not be on her side if this was deemed a civil dispute. Instead, she texted her lawyer, demanding urgent advice. Minutes passed like hours. The men began to back away, scanning the street nervously as neighbors peeked through curtains and cracked doors. Emily's phone pinged with another message, from the anonymous number again. "You're holding the line. But this is only the beginning." Her pulse quickened. What could be worse than this siege? Suddenly, a sharp noise came from the backyard, a clatter, like something heavy being knocked over. She flipped to the rear camera feed. A third figure appeared, moving stealthily behind the house, attempting to pry open the side gate. Emily's mind raced. The HOA's plan was bigger and more coordinated than she'd feared. With trembling fingers, she activated the secondary lockdown on the side gate and turned on the powerful floodlight aimed at the backyard. The figure froze, illuminated in stark relief. For a moment, Emily thought she saw recognition flash across his face. A neighbor? An insider? The intruder fled into the gathering dusk. Emily exhaled slowly, her body tense from hours of silent warfare. But the victory felt hollow. Who were these men? What was the HOA really after? And how many more were involved in this operation she barely understood? Her phone buzzed again. This time, the message was different, a video file. With a shaky finger, she tapped it open. The screen showed surveillance footage from a nearby street camera, footage of a dark SUV circling her neighborhood repeatedly over the past week. Emily's stomach clenched. The HOA's shadow extended far beyond a mere board dispute. This was a calculated, ongoing invasion of privacy, and Emily had just become their biggest obstacle. As the night deepened, Emily sat alone, eyes glued to the screen, determined to fight back, not just for her home, but for the truth lurking beneath the surface of Maplewood Heights. The night was thick with silence, broken only by the faint hum of Emily's laptop as she sat hunched in the dim glow of her living room. The footage of the dark SUV replayed on her screen, the vehicle's slow, deliberate circles through Maplewood Heights, a clear sign of surveillance. She zoomed in, trying to catch a license plate or any identifying marks, but the shadows obscured the details. Her mind raced. Why would the HOA, supposedly just a neighborhood management board, need to surveil her? And potentially other homeowners? Emily's phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message popped up. "Look closer. Not all neighbors are who they seem." A chill ran down her spine. Determined to uncover the truth, she decided to review her own home's security footage from the past week. Maybe there were other signs she had missed. Hours passed as she watched through grainy videos, scanning for anything unusual. Then, a flash of movement caught her eye. A man in a dark hoodie slipping quietly into a neighbor's garage late at night, carrying a small box. The next day, Emily knocked on her neighbor's door. Mr. Lawson, an older man who'd lived in Maplewood Heights for decades. He opened the door slowly, his eyes wary. "Mr. Lawson, have you noticed anything strange? People coming around at odd hours?" she asked. He hesitated, then nodded. "You're not the only one. Some of us have been worried. There have been odd deliveries, strange conversations, and now, the locks." Emily shared what she knew, careful not to alarm him too much. To her surprise, Mr. Lawson pulled out a small folder. Inside were notes, photographs, and handwritten accounts from other neighbors who had experienced similar incidents. "They're trying to control the entire neighborhood," he said quietly. "The HOA board isn't just about rules. They're something else." Emily's heart pounded. She had suspected the board's power was growing, but this was something else entirely, a coordinated, covert takeover. Back home, she activated her security system's recording and monitoring mode, determined to keep watch. That night, as the neighborhood slipped into darkness, Emily noticed movement on the cameras again, figures approaching from the far side of the street, carrying tools and suspicious packages. Her phone buzzed with a warning. They're preparing to cut the power. Emily's breath caught. Without electricity, her remote locks, cameras, and alarms would be useless. Quickly, she accessed her emergency backup system, a hidden battery that could power her security network for hours. As the intruders reached the power box near the curb, Emily remotely activated the floodlights and loudspeakers, blaring a piercing alarm that shattered the night. The figures scattered, voices shouting in frustration. Emily knew this was only a temporary victory. Her secret remote security system had saved her home today. But the war for Maplewood Heights was far from over. And with every message, every strange visit, the shadow of the HOA grew darker. The next morning, Emily awoke to a sharp knock at her door. Her heart thudded in her chest, not from fear, but a mixture of defiance and cautious hope. She peered through the peephole and saw two sharply dressed men standing on her porch, their expressions carefully neutral but eyes sharp and calculating. Before she could react, her phone buzzed with a text from the anonymous number. "Be careful. Not everyone wears the mask of the enemy." Taking a deep breath, Emily unlocked the door just enough to speak through the crack. "Can I help you?" The taller man stepped forward. "Miss Carter, I'm David Klein, legal counsel for the Maplewood Heights HOA. This visit is an olive branch. No more lock changes, no more surprises. We want to talk." Emily's eyes narrowed. "After they changed my locks without notice, after trying to force their way into my home?" David held up a hand, a gesture meant to calm. "We had concerns about unauthorized modifications to the community infrastructure, including your security system, but we want to resolve this peacefully." Emily didn't lower her guard. Who authorized those concerns? And why all the secret surveillance? The strange men lurking outside my house? "I've seen footage of a dark SUV circling the neighborhood. This isn't just about rules." David's face flickered with something close to unease, but he quickly masked it. "I'm afraid some members of the board have taken matters too far. We're investigating internally, but you must understand, the HOA is responsible for community safety and compliance." Emily's mind reeled. "So you admit there's something wrong inside the HOA?" David hesitated. "I can't say more, but I can assure you, we want to work with you." The conversation was interrupted by the sudden sound of sirens in the distance. Emily glanced down at her phone. No emergency calls. The sirens grew louder and then, just as quickly, died away. The men exchanged a look. "We should go," David said quietly. As they left, Emily's phone buzzed with another message. "The walls have ears. Trust no one." For the first time, Emily realized the conspiracy might reach deeper than just the HOA board, perhaps even into law enforcement. Determined, she turned her attention to a new ally, Mrs. Garcia, a neighbor who had hinted at strange occurrences before. Over coffee, Mrs. Garcia revealed rumors of a powerful developer eager to buy up the neighborhood, using the HOA as a front to pressure residents out. "They want the land for a big project," Mrs. Garcia said in a hushed voice. "But some in the board are resisting, others are on the developer's payroll." Emily's world shifted. The lock changes, the intimidation, the surveillance, it was all part of a ruthless game for control and profit. But with her remote security system and growing network of allies, Emily wasn't backing down. She was ready to expose the truth and protect her home at any cost. The days that followed were a blur of late-night meetings, whispered phone calls, and hurried exchanges in shadowed corners. Emily's once peaceful life had become a battlefield, and the lines between friend and foe blurred with every new revelation. Armed with Mrs. Garcia's insider knowledge and her own mounting evidence, Emily prepared to confront the HOA's corruption head-on. She started compiling everything. The videos of unauthorized entries, the surveillance footage of the dark SUV, the threatening messages from the anonymous number, and the testimonies of neighbors like Mr. Lawson and Mrs. Garcia. Her plan was simple yet dangerous. Expose the conspiracy at the upcoming HOA meeting, broadcasting it live using her hidden remote security cameras. But as the day approached, Emily felt the weight of the risks. The anonymous texts had warned her repeatedly, "Trust no one." She knew the board's reach was longer than she'd imagined. On the morning of the meeting, Emily received a call from an unknown number. A distorted voice whispered, "Meet me at the old community center. I have information that will change everything." Her instincts screamed caution, but curiosity and desperation pushed her forward. At the deserted community center, Emily found a shadowy figure waiting, someone she recognized instantly. It was Jason, a member of the HOA board, who had always appeared friendly and supportive. "Jason?" Emily's voice was barely above a whisper. "Why are you here?" He glanced nervously over his shoulder. "I couldn't stay silent anymore. The board's corruption goes deeper than you think. The developer's plans involve illegal evictions and intimidation tactics. Some of us wanted to stop it, but were silenced." Emily felt a flicker of hope. "Can you help me expose them?" Jason nodded. "I have documents, emails, contracts, and payments that prove the developer's involvement. But we have to be careful. They're watching." As he handed over a flash drive, Emily's phone buzzed violently, multiple messages flooding in simultaneously. Suddenly, the community center's power cut out, plunging them into darkness. A chilling voice crackled through Emily's phone speaker. "You should have stayed quiet." In the pitch black, footsteps approached rapidly. Jason grabbed Emily's arm. "Run." They bolted out through a back exit, hearts pounding, as the sound of heavy boots echoed behind them. Emily's security system kicked in, flooding the exterior with light and sending alerts to her phone. They escaped into the night, breathless and shaken. Back at her home, Emily plugged the flash drive into her laptop, her hands trembling as the files loaded. What she saw confirmed her worst fears: clear evidence of bribery, threats against residents, and plans to force sales through harassment. But among the files was something unexpected, a list of names, including some neighbors she had trusted implicitly. A deep betrayal settled in her gut. The war for Maplewood Heights was not just between her and the board. It was a community divided, where loyalty was a currency as volatile as trust. Emily knew that when she revealed the truth at the HOA meeting, she would shake the very foundations of her neighborhood. And there was no turning back. The night of the HOA meeting arrived, tension crackling in the air like static before a storm. Emily sat in her living room, laptop open, security cameras streaming live feeds from the community center's meeting hall and the surrounding neighborhood. Her heart pounded fiercely, every nerve alert, every sense heightened. Neighbors trickled into the hall, faces tight with suspicion, some casting wary glances at Emily as she prepared to expose the corruption that had swallowed their peaceful lives. The HOA board sat smugly at the front, confident in their control, unaware that the veil was about to be torn away. As the meeting commenced, Emily's phone buzzed, an urgent message from the anonymous source. "Watch carefully. The real power is hidden in plain sight." Emily took a deep breath and began. She displayed the files from Jason's flash drive, emails detailing bribes, contracts forcing sales, lists of intimidated neighbors, and damning evidence of the developer's ruthless plans. Gasps filled the room. Some neighbors whispered accusations. Others stared in stunned silence. Then came the bombshell, a list of names implicating several board members and, shockingly, some long-trusted neighbors, people Emily had spoken to, even confided in. "Why?" someone murmured. Before Emily could answer, the lights flickered and suddenly went out. Panic surged through the room. Murmurs turned to shouts. Her phone buzzed again. "Not everyone in this room is free. Look beyond the board." Suddenly, a sharp beam of light cut through the darkness, illuminating the balcony above the meeting hall. There stood a figure, someone Emily hadn't expected, Mrs. Garcia. Her calm voice projected clearly. "You think the HOA board runs this neighborhood? They're just pawns. The true puppet master is the developer CEO, hiding behind layers of power and silence." Gasps erupted. Mrs. Garcia revealed documents proving the CEO's direct involvement, his private security teams, his influence over local law enforcement, and his plan to bulldoze the community for a sprawling commercial complex. The board members shifted uncomfortably as the truth unraveled. Emily realized then that the fight wasn't just about locks or HOA rules. It was a battle against a faceless force wielding influence through greed and intimidation. As the power snapped back on, the police arrived, called earlier by Emily's security system. They began questioning board members and investigating the developer's shadowy dealings. But the night's biggest shock came in the final moments. Emily's phone pinged with a message from the anonymous number. "The locks may change, but freedom is coded in the spirit of those who resist. Attached was a photo. Emily's own hidden remote security system, now recognized as a beacon of hope, inspiring other homeowners to stand up. And beneath it all, a final revelation. The anonymous number was not just one person, but a network of neighbors secretly watching, protecting, and fighting back together. Emily smiled, the weight of fear lifting. The HOA board was exposed, the developer's plans stalled, and a fractured community began to heal, united by courage and technology. As dawn broke over Maplewood Heights, Emily knew the real victory wasn't just in the locks she had protected, but in the spirit she had ignited. The battle for her home had become a movement for justice. And no one, not even the darkest shadows, could change that.